Metal drummers, I've got a special video for you today. Come along with me on this awesome journey. Top 10 metal drummers of all time. Rock and roll. All right, metal drummers, musicians, anyone that enjoys a top 10. Tim Connolly coming at you with my top 10 favorite metal drummers. I love the metal genre. I have a special place for it in my heart. And these top 10 guys and 3 honorable mentions are the guys that I really love and enjoy to listen to. Now, some of the factors are skill, influence, what they've done in the metal world. Not everybody is going to be the same as me. So therefore, if you have some suggestions or just want to let me know what your top 10 is, or even your top 3, or even just your favorite drummer, please leave me a comment and say, hey, you know, I love this guy. This is my favorite metal guy. And, you know, enlighten me. We're all here to teach each other as drummers, you know, so that's part of this. This is educational for me as well as for the viewers. All right, we're going to start with number 10. Matt Halpern from Periphery. What a fantastic drummer Matt is. What a fantastic band Periphery is. Super skilled musicians, and Matt leads the way. Double bass chops galore, hands. You know, he likes to use the cymbals a lot. He's got real musicality. And one thing that I learned from my student, because I wasn't really familiar with Periphery until maybe a year and a half ago or so, was the skill level of these guys. When my student played me a recording of theirs, I was blown away by the double bass accuracy. You know, where he's playing syncopated blips or blocks, where it flows exactly with what the guitar player is doing. It was just genius playing. And I was hooked. First listen, hooked. I thought, Matt, this guy can really play. He's got some really great skills. I've never seen them live, but they are on my list for sure. Number 10, very famous band with a new drummer, Slipknot, Jay Weinberg. What a fantastic drummer. Newer to the band, Jay is, but a fantastic drummer nonetheless. Hard shoes to fill after the sad leaving and then passing of Joey Jordison. Jay had some tough shoes to fill, but he filled them. I've seen Slipknot play, and I've seen Jay play live. The guy's an Olympic athlete, fantastic player, incredible stamina. Those songs are so fast and intense, and their dynamic range is just in your face like crazy. And Jay plays it like he was in training mode. It was literally a show that you will never forget. Go and see Slipknot if you want to see a really, really great drummer, Jay Weinberg. Of course, his dad's a very famous drummer, playing with Bruce Springsteen for many, many, many years. And so he had a good teacher, Jay. I saw a video of Jay playing alongside his dad, and Jay smokes him. You know, the old school versus the new, and the new was just killer. There was no comparison. But still, a legendary drummer nonetheless, Dad. Okay, number 8, another sadly deceased drummer, Vinnie Paul, Pantera fame. I've never seen Pantera, but I've seen Vinnie Paul in a drum clinic, and probably the hardest hitting drummer I've ever seen other than Kenny Aronoff. Vinnie Paul goes through the drums when he hits them. It's just thunderous force when he hits the drums. So much power, so much groove. Not as fancy, fast, and flashy as a lot of the other drummers on my list here, but in terms of pure, solid groove, nobody beats Vinnie Paul. The man is a legend and a god in the metal world, without a doubt. Moving along to number 7, one of my favorites, Thomas Hack from Meshuggah. What a fantastic band Meshuggah is. These guys are elite, athletic musicians. They play the most complicated songs probably in the metal genre, with odd times and odd phrasings and modulations, and you know, Thomas is leading the charge. The guy has got so much technique. He's got such incredible chops and musicality. He's a great odd time player. He's like the Vinnie Paul of the metal world, in my opinion. He's got a really great handle on playing in odd time meters and playing in odd phrasings. And if you've ever seen Thomas play, he's never misses a beat. He's one of those very, very efficient drummers that every note is exactly precise. What a fantastic player. Check out Meshuggah if you're not familiar with him. Number 6 on my list, another very famous, groundbreaking drummer, Dave Lombardo from Slayer and Suicidal Tendencies. What a fantastic double bass player and big drum set player Dave is. I've seen Slayer play with Dave, and it was awesome. What a fantastic show that they put on, and what a fantastic drum show Dave put on. He's one of those drummers that stands out in the show. He really, really exemplifies what metal is all about and what a metal drummer's role is in the band. He's one of those guys that just, when he's playing, you know that there is a skilled and talented musician on stage. Right from the first count in, I was overwhelmed by how great Dave was. And sad that he left the band Slayer on, financial reasons and difficult terms, but he's one of those guys that'll always be in the scene. Number 5, another legendary, sadly deceased great player, Joey Jordison, formerly of Slipknot. Joey is one of the drummers I've never actually seen live. I've never seen him at a clinic or seen him with Slipknot. I've seen Slipknot, but it was with Jay, not Joey. Joey was the reason that I said to myself, man, I have to get much, much better playing double bass, because this guy is a double kick machine. Fluidity around the drum kit, speed around the drum kit, wearing a full costume at every show, wearing a mask, and gloves, and just unbelievable that he could play under these extreme circumstances. Super hot lights. If any of you have ever played any pro shows, and I am a professional drummer, I played lots of pro shows, the lights are unbelievably hot. It's unbelievable that Joey could last as long as he did on stage without losing, 10 or 15 pounds of sweat, because of the costume and the mask and everything that he's wearing. But, the guy played unbelievable control and speed night after night after night, and he probably did lose a lot of weight. He was probably loading up on water in between songs for sure. That's the only way to survive that gig. All right, now number 4, one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love Iron Maiden, and I love Nico McBrain. Now, Nico is another one of those guys that's a founding father of metal drumming. He's one of those guys that you look at and you think, he's having so much fun. What a fun guy to watch play drums. I've seen Iron Maiden play live. I've seen Nico play a drum clinic, and I've actually had a chance to talk to him and get to know him. What a fun, awesome man Nico is. He's probably the most personable of all the drummers on this list. He's Mr. Personality on and off the drum set. On the drums, the man is a legend. He's influenced more drummers than I can even think of. He's one of the most influential drummers on my list for sure. And if you are not an Iron Maiden fan, you need to check out Nico, because he is an absolute monster in this genre. All right, now we are in the top 3. This is where things get really, really interesting. The third pick was, like 3-1. Any one of them can be 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, whatever. They're so hard to pick. These top 10 lists are difficult, but Lars Ulrich comes in at number 3 with Metallica. Now, the reason Lars is at number 3 is because I was mentioning about Nico being influential. Lars is probably the most influential. He's certainly not the most technical drummer out of all the ones on my list, but he's definitely the most influential. Metallica is probably the most famous metal band on earth, and there's a reason for that, and it's got to do with the way that Lars attacks those drums. Now, I'm a big fan of early Metallica. I really enjoyed Lars's playing in the early days, and then of course they became more commercial, and Lars was restricted a little bit perhaps on what he was doing, and he wasn't playing, the songs weren't as fast and they weren't as Lars-ish, if you want to call it. But in terms of making money, Metallica is one of the greatest bands of all time making money. There's no doubt about that. Lars, he likes to make money. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we all do. But in the early days of Metallica, Lars was more about what he was doing on the drums and the speed and the just the approach that Metallica took to those songs. Raw, they were not famous, they were hungry, and they wanted to make it big, and you could hear that they were just up and coming band back in those days, in the early days, that they were going to be the next big thing. Lars knew it, and he was right. We are down to the top 2. This guy is probably one of my all-time favorites because the band is one of my all-time favorites, and that is Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. Now, without Black Sabbath, we would not even be doing this, and we would not be listening to the music that we love, because Black Sabbath, in my opinion, was the very first metal band. There's always a funny story about Bill in the early days just attacking his drum kit. He was influenced by Keith Moon. And Bill was not one to kick the drums over and beat them up the way Keith did, but just the fills that he would play and the triplet phrasings that he would use and the use of a hi-hat. My favorite Black Sabbath tune's always been The Wizard, and it's featuring Bill. I absolutely love that tune. It's a drum tune, you know, and Bill shines in that tune. Now, I highly recommend, I mean, Black Sabbath, of course, they got all the recordings over the years, but check out Black Sabbath in the early days on YouTube with Bill Ward playing, say, around 1970, 71. You see how hungry they are and how happy they are to be up on stage playing, and Bill was one of those guys. Another one, highly influential. One of the more influential players. I'd put him behind Lars as being the most influential, but I would say he is second to Lars only in terms of being one of the most influential and motivating drummers of all time. I mean, it was my brother that introduced me to Black Sabbath way back in the early 70s. You know, I'm like 6 or 7 years old, and here's my brother saying, you know, check this song out, and then Iron Man comes on, and I'm getting chills telling this story. I'm just like, what is that? And it was Bill Ward, that heavy bass drum, and Tony Iommi with incredible, he's the riff king as far as I'm concerned. But that's for another video. Okay, now before we get to my top pick, we're just going to do a few quick honorable mentions. And the first one is Chris Adler, Lamb of God. Fantastic drummer, great double bass player. I saw Lamb of God open for Slipknot a few years back, and Chris Adler is another one of those guys that is a drummer's drummer. He's very technical, very organized in his playing. It's not crazy playing. It's much more structured and you know, technically organized, kind of like a Thomas Hack kind of a guy, but at the same time heavier, much heavier, and really laying in the groove, like you know, like influenced by a guy like Vinnie Paul in that way. Another guy I'd like to honorably mention is Flo Monier of Cryptopsy. I've seen Flo play. I've seen him in a drum clinic, and other than Vinnie Paul, crazy loud player, but with incredible speed and skill. Flying around those toms at absolutely breakneck tempos. He was playing a lot of Cryptopsy, and of course that is intense, extreme metal music, but at the same time, you could see that this guy's blast beats are second to none. Second to none. Incredible blast beats that this guy can play, and incredible speed with his double kicks. You know, the kicks are triggered, and he was definitely playing with triggers when I went and saw him, but the speed that his feet were moving at, even with the triggers, was just absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed seeing Flo at the clinic. Check Cryptopsy out. And my last honorable mention is similar to Cryptopsy, Aaron Kitcher from Infant Annihilator. Now, Infant Annihilator is probably the most extreme of all the metal bands, arguably, just my opinion. There may be others that maybe I'm not even aware of, some European obscure bands or something that are even more intense than Infant Annihilator. But of all the bands and drummers that I've seen, I would say Aaron is the most intense, playing the most intense music. Again, I saw Aaron at a drum clinic playing Infant Annihilator tunes and also playing a bunch of other songs. He was actually playing some reggae when I went and saw him, which blew my mind. Aaron's a very versatile player. The guy can play anything. Same with Flo. He can also play anything. So those are my 3 honorable mentions. All great drummers. Didn't quite make it to my top 10 list, but honorably mentioned. Right, and now we get down to number 1. My favorite metal drummer is Ray Luzier from Korn. Now, I love Korn. I've seen Korn play live, and I've seen Ray in a drum clinic. I've had a chance to talk to him. Another fantastically wonderful man, really loves his fans, really, really great player. I think he's probably the most skilled player on the list, and he's musically educated, went to music school just like me. I was actually going to go to the same music school as him, but I ended up not going there. I ended up going somewhere else. But fantastic, educated, skilled, talented player. I love his hand and feet combinations and the way that he phrases around the drum kit. He's not one of these guys that plays crazy fast double kick, but he phrases around the drum kit, hands and feet, unlike anyone else. It's very, very musical. And ultimately, people, I don't care what anybody says, the most important thing for a drummer is to be musical. Play to the song. It's not necessarily about you. It's not necessarily about your ego and showing off. It's make the band sound good. In making the band sound good, you're going to sound good and you're going to stand out. Ray is one of those guys. He makes the band sound really great. He stands out because he sounds great, and he's the star in the band. When I went and saw Korn, Ray stood out. He was front and center. He was not in the back. He was front and center, and Ray really stood out as a star. And it was a great show. His drum solo was mind-blowing. He actually did a tribute to Neil Peart when I went and saw them a few years back, and it was awesome. That is my top 10 metal drummers of all time. Stay tuned for many more videos and new content coming your way. I just want to mention also that my lessons will be up. My videos for drum lessons will be up soon. I'm waiting on a piece of equipment to start filming, and I really want to get top-notch drum sound. For those of you that are subscribed to me and have subscribed to me recently, I want to thank you very, very much. Just be aware, if you're new to my channel, there's going to be tons of lessons and new drum content coming your way. Keep drumming, keep the groove. See ya.